Hey, welcome to the Votary Podcast. We're a team of filmmakers based in New England who are passionate about storytelling. We talk about the impact that stories have in every part of our lives, from business to culture and everything in between. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to the Votary Podcast. This is episode 20, and it's pretty special because we have an awesome guest in the studio, my brother Josiah, who is also a filmmaker, and we have a pretty special history. Some people know it, some people don't. We broke away from our dad's business in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, and went to northern Indiana and made a feature film together. We wrote it together and went through the whole process, which was kind of like our film school.
Yep.
And sadly haven't done a lot since then. Both kind of had our different paths, but it's fun to come back together and compare notes and to talk about, you know, what we've learned and what we're going to do next, things like that.
Lots of
and Jamin.
I'm here too, guys.
This is like a Burdick family reunion.
Yeah, it's just the Burdick Boys up here.
Not only is it three Burdicks, but it's three
J Burdicks.
JB initials.
JB.
Yep.
So I had the privilege of watching Josiah's film last night, and you know, before we even get into that, I think we should just kind of talk like high level about filmmaking.
Yes.
Let's hear sort of your backstory in how you decided to become a filmmaker.
Ooh, that's a great question, Jed. A lot of it has to do with you, actually, older brother.
That's why I asked.
Ellie, you knew exactly where this was going. Yeah, when I was about 5 years old, I tell a story. When I was 5, I was watching a movie, and I knew at that time that movies weren't real. But it dawned on me at this moment that the people who were in it, there was real people who actually got to experience those movies. And so I remember when I was 5 years old, I had this kind of revelation that was like, what's cooler than watching a movie, being in that movie? And so I wanted to be an actor probably since that time. I still kind of enjoy it, you know, as a side. But when I was about 17 years old was when I actually started pursuing film. And a lot of that had to do with a conversation that I had with you.
Let's hear it.
Yep. So we were we were driving as we did so often to work in Syracuse, New York, working for our dad. And my brother says to me, he says, "Do you know what the best job in the world is?" I said, "No, older brother, tell me."
Driving a milk truck.
No, he said, "Directing movies." And I said, "Yeah, Jed, but they will never let us do it. It's a closed club. It's like we can't get in. We'll never break in."
And that was true.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
And he said, "No, we'll just do it on our own. We'll do indie film." And actually through that conversation and through subsequent weeks, we ended up coming up with what maybe you've talked about on the podcast before. Turned out to be indiefilmer.com and kind of our
in the origin story. I talked a little bit about
a little
it.
bit. Okay. Yeah.
But
yes, it's a little unknown history.
Yeah.
A little.
So indiefilmer.com, the idea was, okay, so 2004, 3 or 4, we were like, okay, how do we get out of our day job and be filmmakers? And the whole blog, vlog thing wasn't even a thing.
No.
There were
before.
There were some like user forums out there, the DVX 100 user forum, the DVXuser.com.
Yep.
And you know that was the filmmaker community, the indie filmmaker community. So you learned everything from other people who were just doing it, and sometimes they would post a link to articles they were writing or videos that they shot. But there wasn't even a place to host these videos. There was no like YouTube. Like YouTube was in its infancy. No one knew of it. You couldn't just put stuff out there. So we made this site because I had made websites called indiefilmer.com. Actually, before indiefilmer.com, there was a different site. If we really wanted to hear the story, because of DVX user, I convinced Dad to do a business purchase and buy
that's right.
the Canon XL2.
XL2 user.
Which was the competitor to the DVX.
Totally.
And I made the site thexl2.com. And that was a user forum, and people started talking on it.
That's right.
But just not enough.
Yeah.
And it was, I didn't feel good that it was so product specific.
Yep.
I'm like, we need to go higher level and talk filmmaking and just do. We wanted to talk about visual effects and all kinds of things we wanted to learn.
Yep.
Green screen, everything.
3D.
And so we did. We made that site, and you know what? It grew.
Yep.
I remember when we left for Indiana, the last stats I looked at was 60,000 unique visitors per month, and it was enough to where it was enough to where the manufacturers and different equipment makers, whatever, when we would show them the site,
our stats,
they would throw gear at us for reviews.
Oh,
and
that was amazing.
Even though we didn't get paid in money, we got paid in
days.
gear. And actually that got Mark's attention, our brother-in-law.
Yep.
I remember him calling me and saying, "What are you doing with this site?
Right.
Where are you going? You want to make movies. I want to make movies. Let's make a movie together."
Let's talk. And that was the birth of Silk Trees.
Yeah. So we went out to Indiana, made a movie. After that, we came back here.
What do you mean we?
Well, you did for a while.
Eventually, that's true.
Not right away, but a little while later you came. New England wasn't for you.
No.
And you went west.
Was it 2 months? 3 months?
I don't know. Yeah, 3 months later or something. Not a great 3 months for you, sadly.
Sadly.
And that was to be honest, that was a really hard time for me too, because we were just trying to get our feet here.
Yep.
And Votary was just born.
Yeah, that was startup phase for you.
It was startup phase.
Wow.
And so we kind of just like parted ways, and I kind of went the way of trying to write and build up more films, but then it really went into corporate video partnerships.
Yep.
And you've done some of that same over time.
Yep.
And then
at a lesser scale, I'll point out.
Well, everybody's path is different.
Yeah.
You actually spent more time teaching film to different people.
That's true.
Different schools.
Yeah.
And
overseas.
And then 3 years ago you made your first feature film, Useless.
Yep.
So how did you come up with this idea? So people will maybe leave the Amazon link for the film. It's called Useless. Mm-hmm. It's about a girl who loses her mom and basically connects with a horse and her passion, which is barrel racing. And it's worth a watch.
She lost her mom, honey. She needs something to hold on to. Can he be rode?
He might be all right eventually for trail riding or pleasure riding, but for cutting, completely useless.
I'm sorry you had to switch her last year. That's really tough.
Tell me how you came into this as your first feature.
Great question. So to answer that, we go all the way back to what I reference as the Flisbin days. So I was directing 2 episodes of a kids show that was, singing and dancing and colorful and puppets, and we were going for a very specific market, and it honestly didn't pan out at all. But through that, I made a connection with a distributor that was not only family friendly but Christian distributor. And with
are you Christian?
Yes.
Okay, I just got to get that out of the way.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and actually sometimes when people ask me if I'm a Christian, I'll say, I just love Jesus. Titles, I don't know, but that's
right
what
on.
I say. So the same brother-in-law that we worked with on Silk Trees, he was doing this kids show. He was the producer on it. And so we were sitting down at a dinner in, I think it was Grand Rapids, Michigan, with this distributor. And he was smart enough, he's a very intelligent guy, he was smart enough to ask the question, what movies do the best that you've distributed? And the guy's answer was, without a shadow of a doubt, it's movies with girls and horses. And we said, well, define that a little bit. He's like, no, it's literally girls, horses, that's it, marketed towards 13 to 25-year-olds. It doesn't really have to be anything other than it's about a girl and a horse. And so, I tucked that away. It wasn't directed at me, but I ran with that. And years later, I was thinking, okay, I think it's time to dive into filmmaking, which I can actually approach. How did I come to this decision of making a movie on my own? You want to kind of?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll dive into that. So, I'm trying to make movies, and being a Christian, being a believer, I'm really putting it to God, God, why is this not happening? And at one point, I felt like he spoke to my heart, and he said, Josiah, I want you to make a movie. And I was genuinely angry.
You heard that in your heart?
I heard that in my heart. And I thought, God, it's your fault that I'm not making movies. You're asking me to do this. What?
The old blame God routine.
Every time. So I thought about it. And I thought, well, okay, what can I actually do? And so I made a short film for nothing. And a seed of an idea planted, which was, I find people with passion who are interested in doing this. I can find food for really cheap to nothing. I can feed them. And I made this short film over the course of a week for really cheap. What could I do? What if I made a really long short film? It's called a feature. But in the end, the way you look at short films, they're not terribly high production value typically. What if I made a feature-length film at that production level? Could I actually distribute it and make money back on it? And so after that short film, I decided, this is exactly it. And so I was starting to look at what type of a story should I tell? What genre or styles can I tell based on what resources do I have in front of me? And so that's when I landed on this idea of rodeo, because I was living in Montana. It's rodeo everywhere. It's cowboys, people, tons of resources there. And ironically, I watched a commercial that was for Chevy trucks. And I think actually you could probably find this.
Were they real actors or not real actors? Or real people?
I don't know. It might have been real, because it seemed really real. But I was so enthralled with it, I thought, I got to make a movie like this. And it was called something along the lines of Girl in Her. I think it was a Girl in Her Truck.
Okay.
They just spun it.
That's a scripted one. I'm joking around because they have those.
Oh, really?
Not paid actors, real people.
Oh, yeah.
That's their main thing. People are anyways, keep going.
Is that Chevy?
Yeah. Isn't it Chevy? That's Chevy.
That's an important question that we don't know the answer to.
I'm pretty sure it's Chevy.
Put it in the show notes. So I watched this commercial and I thought, that's it. If I could make a movie that looked just like that, that'd be pretty cool.
Nice.
It doesn't. It doesn't, look nearly like that, but it was a start, and so that's kind of how I landed on that whole concept.
Nice. Now, how important was the commercial viability to you? Let me rephrase it.
Yeah.
Back it up. How important was your experience with us not selling silk trees?
Yeah.
And not going the distance to distribution? How much did that weigh on you for picking commercially viable project?
I would say it was 100%, because I hadn't just done silk trees where we didn't quite get it into distribution. Didn't at all. Also with this kids show called The Flisbins, also not commercially viable. 2 strikeouts, I was 100% focusing on commercial viability. And because of that, I began with the end in mind. And I approached that same distributor who said, oh yeah, movies with girls and horses. And I approached him first before I even approached investors.
Let's give a punchline to our audience who are probably wondering this right now. Is it making any money?
Yes, it is.
Really?
It's not in the black yet, but it's on track to be.
That's awesome.
By the end of the year. What's that?
1 quarter?
By the end of, by the end of Q4 this year, we should easily be in the black.
You'll be making money. Your investors will be paid. And
paid back. I was one of the top investors. I put about $25,000 in.
What was the film budget?
$45,000.
$45,000.
We started, the true budget was $20,000, but creep happens.
Did you have contingency cash for
None.
100% creep?
None. We had none of it. We had about $20,000 in the bank.
Wait. What's that?
Well, he just
contingency.
said the budget was 20, and
Oh,
And then we
creep.
spent 40.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got
it
it.
went
You
to
got it.
40.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, hey, let's raise double the amount of funds that the.
You know,
Yeah. Classic.
again, I point to God and my faith is saying, you know, we had the 20,000 miraculously. As we continued in post-production and more money was spent, I, at that time, had a really great client who was basically just kept paying me great jobs, one after the other, and that money just went right at the door, paying other people, which is fantastic. I was really happy.
What was the timeline for raising the funds, and how did you go about that process?
So I used this letter of intent from the distributor to approach a few people who were either friends or family, people that I thought would be open to talking about it, and also people who wouldn't, hurt if they never got their money back, basically. And that was up front. Hey, look at, there's high risk in this. Think of it as a gift, and maybe you'll actually, get an ROI on this. And I only approached, let me think. I only approached 2 people, and the other 3 of the investors that I have 5 investors, they approached me.
Nice.
Which was really incredible. And, a couple times they approached me and I said, hey, you don't even know the terms. You're just saying, I want in.
No.
Yeah. Don't want your money.
You
Actually,
said
one
no.
time, one of them, they were so into it that I was like, where's the catch? What do you want? What am I missing? Yeah. What am I missing?
How
here?
did you get that money?
Yeah.
I need to get rid of this money real quick.
Right now.
I'll give you $1. You give me back like 2-3 cents.
Cents? Yeah.
When you were all in on the concept, how long was the script writing process, and what did that look like for you?
So when I had the first investor who said yes, I was like, then it's game on. Because
so one investor is
one
what it
investor
took for you to then
about
buckle down
3,000.
and write?
Yep, about
Nice.
3,000
Nice.
committed. And my attitude at the time, and I really credit the attitude more than anything else for, well, God obviously, but attitude second, as what accomplished or what really pulled this movie together. And it was that I had an attitude that said, I'm going to make a film. I'm going to have a script, and we're going to shoot it, whether it's me and my A7S2 alone or whether I have a crew. It doesn't matter. This is happening. And people caught that. It was contagious. They caught it. They sensed it. And everybody lined up who not too many resources in Montana, honestly. What resources I found, they were like, I want in.
Nice.
Yep.
Maybe that was to your advantage because it's not Hollywood town.
Yep.
So people
Absolutely.
are like, this sounds fun.
Yep.
Sounds cool, meaningful.
Yep.
You didn't tell me the timeline. From the start of Fade In to a locked script, what was that?
I wrote from roughly middle of January until July, aiming to start shooting in August.
2 words a day?
Yeah, 2 words a day.
I'm just kidding.
So, but I had 3 revisions, and they were fast. They were fast revisions. Now, if you do watch the movie, you will say, oh, yes, they were very fast revisions. One thing that I'm not too proud of is the writing. I feel like the writing could have been much stronger. I could have had a better hook than what I did have.
That's interesting.
And so,
what would you do?
That is really interesting.
What would your process be? And just cut me off when you want to, Jamin.
I'm just fascinated by this. I'm learning a lot.
If you were going to
Cool.
do it again, what would you do differently?
yeah, I think
And you will do it again. So.
The first thing is to write the script as I want it and to focus on that as its own thing. At that time, I basically was writing the script as if it was, my runway in front of me. I knew we were filming and I had to get this done. Now, that was great because it lit a fire under me and I got it done. But this time around, what I really like is the idea of getting a script that I don't have a ton of time pressure on. I have my own pressure, but, submitting it to friends, people who I really trust, getting their honest feedback, really, really stress testing it, locking it, and then going into production, then beginning pre-pro.
Here's a tough question.
Sure.
Do you have any sense that and I swear to God, this isn't a leading question. Okay.
Hit me.
Do you have any sense that your determination to pick a commercially viable project detracted from your engagement in the script writing story, or like your personal?
That's a pretty interesting question.
That's a
your
great question.
personal
I think it's-
interest in the story.
You absolutely hit the nail on the head. That is exactly what happened. I put so little stock in the necessity of the script being good that I almost phoned it in. And
That's a big thing to admit for your first freaking film, Josiah.
yeah, sorry, Jed.
No, I'm saying it's honest. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that, and I didn't think that was the case.
Well, and it's not to say that
I'm
didn't.
disappointed. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
My little brother. I'm ashamed.
I didn't start him in filming.
It's not my result. No, it's not to say that I didn't work hard on it. I worked really hard on it.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have this burning idea that said this has to be an amazing script. What I thought was, no, just write something fun. Just write something fun, easy. We're going to crank this out. And we're going to move on to the next one. Don't spend too much time.
Well, to your credit, there's a value in that, and there's a value in just executing and getting something done.
Yeah.
Like, I often, when we are criticizing films around here, I often will speak up, and I criticize films too, but I'll like throw a caveat out there or something. I'm like, finishing the film is a big deal.
That's a big deal.
It's huge. That cuts you out from, I don't know, the stat.
And
9 out
people,
of 10.
most people don't know it.
99%,
Yeah. Like a lot of people just don't. The average person who's not a filmmaker just don't understand how difficult it is to take it from concept all the way through to finish.
That's true.
And so many just fail. And there's a lot of emotions and
there's also something really fascinating about the collaborative nature of it too, because you can do something like write a book by yourself. Like
Right.
maybe it takes you 20 years,
Right.
and you just
Right.
come
All
back
by
to
yourself.
it.
great point.
But a film, like, there's so many people relying on you,
Yep.
and so it's just such a
Well, and so many people to align.
yeah
Like if you
yeah we're
have-
under the same vision.
if you have a certain group, especially your leaders, your department heads,
Yep.
that don't have the same vision as you, it might go badly. The whole thing might be pretty disjointed.
True.
So I think that's a good segue.
Huge props to
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations on finishing.
finishing.
That's a
And
good segue into asking, like, to differentiate the roles. Like, what did you learn in terms of differentiation between the roles of like writer, producer, director, and editor?
Yeah.
I know you didn't edit it solely. But,
no.
just talk to me a little bit about what you learned about those roles.
Yeah. Well, starting with writing, I feel like the number one thing I learned with that is to really focus on the essence of the idea first, to try to create much more of a story drive. I mean, we learned this on Silk Trees to some extent. I feel like I learned it really more on this one, to make sure that there's a real narrative drive that is really embedded in the seed of the idea from the beginning. Because you just won't create the most entertaining story without that to begin with. And you can write and delete pages for infinity, So that was the biggest thing I learned as a writer. And also, you just got to do the work. They say writing is butt in chair, fingers on keyboard, typing madly. Just do it. And so learning that was really big. I had my routines and my coffee shops, and I was a regular at a lot
good
of
at
places.
the routines.
Oh yeah,
That's how you got the movie done.
that's how you get it done.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great that
routines.
you keyed in on that.
Yep.
So that's kind of like writer, producer. What about? Well, yeah, definitely writer. With producer, like, you shared some of the producing.
That's a whole other hat. Yeah.
Yeah, you shared some of the producing responsibility with our sister, right?
Yes, with Charity. Charity, it's amazing. Our whole family, we have a lot of this film gene, and she's wanted to make films for forever. And so I approached her. I said, I need someone who is a high-level producer who can do the things that I can't, because being a writer, director, producer is a lot. And she killed it. She really killed it. She did a great job. But she also, I will pat myself on the back. She also would say to me all the time, Josiah, I did a good job because you produced the heck out of it before I even showed up.
Nice.
And a lot of that just comes down to knowing that whatever you write on the page has to actually happen. And producing isn't hard. It seems weird. Like, what is a producer if you don't have a project in front of you that needs to be accomplished? As soon as you see that and know what it is, then it's so easy. It's like, well, what do I have to get, you know, in order to show that visual?
The script is like the recipe.
Yep.
And the producer's like going to the grocery store and getting all the ingredients.
Absolutely.
Oh,
I've
that's
never
a good
heard
analogy.
that analogy. That's
You
You
absolutely
just make
it.
that up on the spot?
I did in that moment. And the director's the
Yeah.
chef.
Well, write
putting
that
it all
down in your
together.
book right
Director's
now.
the chef.
Copyright that.
And the consumer is the person that eats the food.
Ooh,
Stop.
And
Now, this is
getting meta.
too good.
getting meta now.
How's the food taste, by the way? Depends on the recipe.
it really does.
Useless.
But
that was
but
the
if
right,
the
that was the right answer.
if the if the person that went to the grocery store didn't get the right ingredients, it's not going to
You're
taste
screwed.
good.
It's too much cayenne pepper.
Yep.
Um,
I can tell
when
you,
go ahead.
directing, I realized that 90% of directing is just really effective leadership. Excellent communication, which is necessary in every leadership position. And then 10% is that actor coach thing that comes out. You can't act for them. You can't do it for them. That's all them. But you can coach them. You can coach them as effectively as possible.
Did you say, can you make that 10% more angry? Or like,
Sexier.
yeah. How did you direct? I'm just kidding around, but how did you direct?
So my style that I've landed on so far, I'm still on a journey learning it, honestly. And I try to read Directing Actors by Judith Weston as often as humanly possible. And I probably only get 3 chapters in, and then I have to stew on it for 6 months, and then I forget what I read, and I have to read 3 chapters again.
I love that.
Nice.
So the way I just landed on it for this project was, I feel like we all as humans are some of the most insecure people ever, and I think the actors even more so, because they're right in front of a camera. They're just so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so the way that I try to direct is with encouragement. I try to encourage people into confidence and authenticity. And I just talk to them about what I'm seeing, and I encourage every ounce of good that I'm seeing. And after a while, I try to help people calm down. I try to get them into a rhythm. I may not give too many critiques, because I think you can really spoil the process for them. And then I try to trick people. I try to tell them that it's all done. And I learned this from my older brother.
This is a
Oh,
secret
great.
I saw him
sauce.
on Silk Trees so many times. He'd say, "We've got it. It's in the can. Now whatever you want, just settle into it."
How often did that work?
Every time.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Jed. Sage wisdom.
We're gonna have to cut that part out though, because that's secret Burdick sauce.
That
Secret
was
Burdick sauce.
Only I get
total
to hear that
like
one.
exposure moment for me. Just kidding.
No, it's true though. It works. People, once they realize the pressure's off, then the most authentic, version of their performance comes out.
It's really great when, like, you say you got it and you really didn't get it, and then their post-performance, you didn't get it then either. And you're like, I guess we're moving on because we got it.
Okay, we got it, and we still got it.
And we still got it. It's still in the can.
I notoriously though, I'm so authentic myself. They all would learn me, and they could hear it in my tone when I'd say, "Cut, print, that was it." They were like, "Oh yes," they get jazzed. The whole room would get amped. I'd say, "Cut, yeah, print. Well, yeah, we're moving."
So that's
They're
a
like,
good question. So
Josiah, did we really get it?
with a micro-budget film like this, you really don't have typically a lot of days budgeted.
Correct.
How did you decide? Like, how often were you deciding to move on as opposed to continue to try to draw blood from a stone?
My AD, Sydney Rizal, she was awesome.
Legend.
She was fantastic.
Good old Sydney.
Yes, she did a really great job.
Looking forward to meeting her.
Her number one trait was never stress me out. I turned to her all the time. I'd say, "Sydney, how much time we got?" "We got time. We got time." I'm like, "Oh, okay. We'll go again."
She's the one that's tricking you.
She was.
She directed you.
Yeah, but yeah, oftentimes I could feel it, and even when she was as chill as she was, I knew it. I was like, we got to move on. We're way too tight, because I produced enough to know how tight our days were, and so it was almost always 6 or 7 takes and we're done. We're moving on.
Fire Sydney.
No.
When you finished principal photography, how difficult did you find it to start the editing process?
Well, I remembered Silk Trees and how it was difficult. I remembered that. That was locked into my brain. And so I told myself, I'm going to take some time to relax. I'm going to take 2 weeks, and then I'm just going to dive in. And the reality was I was so burned out, I couldn't do it. I was really burnt. Crispy, you could say. And I took maybe all the way until from July to October. And I edited 20 minutes of the film over that time. It was like pulling teeth. I just
Did you
forced
feel
myself.
guilty?
So guilty. So guilty. And yeah, it was a struggle. And then I had this idea. I thought, I need help. I need to reach out. And I had a friend, a crew over in Idaho, group of friends, really great people. They had come over and helped me at a great, length for free. Great people on my film, and they were working towards their film. And so I reached out to one of them, their number one editor, young guy, and just asked him, "Hey, do you want to edit this? Do you want to handle this as for experience?" And he dove in. He said, "Yep, just for the experience, I'll do it," which was hugely generous of him. And he edited from basically mid-October to Christmas, and he had a full edit in that amount of time. He's insanely fast. From that, I had a lot of things that I was like, no, that's not quite my vision. This is maybe not quite as good as it could possibly be. I know that you can do too much editing and try to over polish something, but there's a lot that you can improve in the edit, and so I stuck with it. But he gave me a shot in the arm because he gave me a palette to work with. And from that, I was able to hone and shift and really bring down to a certain extent. And so from basically December until April, I was editing.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
When we did Silk Trees, it was like a solid straight 6 months of editing.
Yep.
You want to hear something?
For the 3-hour version.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Well, Silk Trees, who jumped into the editing first?
Caleb Curlin. Caleb, our friend, and we actually just recently reconnected. And he's the main editor.
Okay.
I sat with him every day.
Yep.
For 6 months.
Gotcha.
Yep.
It wasn't I come in and review edits. It was we were editing
Jointly
together.
editing.
Yeah. He was the hands and you were.
He was the hands, and I was like ideas.
Yeah.
And then God bless him. He really.
He worked
could
so
try.
hard.
He was able to execute on ideas, and
That's pretty cool.
He was able to feel what I was going for when I would describe stuff, and that's really special because a lot of times you're reviewing scenes, and you don't want to be like, yeah, it's just not what I thought it was gonna be.
That's the worst.
When you're actually
in,
I would never do that. But the point is, that's what you're feeling when you're sitting
right.
there. That's very different though when you're sitting there with them and you're experiencing all the different takes and the ideas together. I don't know. I'm sure different director, editor, dynamic duos have different processes, and that's great. But that one worked really well for us. And then I did some polish editing, and then it went to Michael Whistler.
Yep.
Okay.
Who did a finish edit.
Yep.
And a lot of what Whistler did was trim and cut down and cut out scenes.
Yep.
And in some cases, he improved some of the timing. There was a cut where he went too far. We had to come back. And I actually think that's really good.
The process.
Yeah, to compare and contrast.
That's pretty.
Take it too far and then dial it back. That's with color correction. I do that.
I want to hear more.
Too much, back it up.
I
want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Joey. Jed, tell me, when you first saw the full running edit of Silk Trees, first cut, Did you feel sick to your stomach?
No, I didn't. I felt like you
I'm
did.
a hack.
You did. No, I felt multiple different feelings.
Many emotions?
It was a 3-hour cut, and so all of this stuff that I wrote on the page that I believed would be beautiful, which we put into the rough, which we put into the assembly,
Yeah.
was like not nearly as so much of it was not nearly as valuable for the viewer.
Right.
And so I had to rethink a lot of it, and that even included characters.
Yep.
And dialogue.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all this, what I believed would be
It'd
important.
be
exposition.
fascinating to watch. I don't know if you have that anywhere.
Don't think so.
I hope
3-hour cut.
But
I hope that's
what a
gone
study that would be
It
to
is a
show
study.
other
It
people.
is a study.
you know?
It was pretty amazing. We
Yes.
cut a whole character out of the movie.
Yep.
We cut so many scenes and bits of dialogue. We did this thing where, because I was a first time writer, we were first time writers, script writers. There was a lot of questions that were answered in the script, and
That nobody was asking?
There were literal characters were asking questions and someone would answer, and you don't have to answer.
Yes.
So in the edit, we would start to just
Wow.
not answer them and then move on.
Yep.
And it was way better.
Yep.
So like stuff like that. The point is the round trip from the writing through the editing
Yeah, we were talking about this last
was
night.
the really key learning cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm sad for writers that don't get to do the editing.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm sad for editors that don't write,
That done right.
because that's the
Stop
powerful
That hurts.
start writing.
Ouch.
Jet.
I'm right over here.
Yeah. Jamin, got to
What?
start writing.
I've been told that like 3 times recently.
Well, you're about to take
Got to
on
do it.
original content at Votary. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Hey, before I move on to other questions,
Yeah.
want to hear an editing idea that I'm going to try
Please.
on the next feature?
Please.
I'm going to have 3 editors in a siloed from each other. And
Jed,
there's the script.
I can already see where this is going. This is genius.
There's the script, and they each have a task to edit the scene to the script, and then edit the scene, and they're
To their
gonna
liking.
do it the day after dailies.
Right.
So they're all gonna be editing
And-
while
yeah.
we shoot, and then they're gonna edit the scene with a gamified thought of like beat the script
Yes.
in mind.
Yes.
Look through every single take and outside the box ideas.
Yep.
And just try to beat the script with that take, and then I'll have 6 finished versions
Of the scene.
of the scene
That is insane.
to view. And in many cases it'll be scenes that flow into other scenes. It's transitions too. It's not
So,
just scenes.
And
I'm stoked on this.
Yeah, dude. Do you envision this final film when you go to watch this? Is this going to be a patchwork of all? May the best scene win.
Well, what I'm thinking
make
is,
sense?
and people say, oh, your voice is going to change and it's going to be all over here. And
Nobody will tell.
I think if it works, it works, and we'll feel it. And the ultimate assembly of the best choices is where I'll probably tweak as a director. Like, oh, what about this and this
Yeah.
and this? As opposed to the assembly of the best scene,
Right.
which is the way we did before. And I'm interested in trying this out. I don't know if it'll be better or worse than the last thing, but I'm keen on trying it.
You know, I listened to this podcast, Art of the Cut, I think it's called. And I was listening to these guys talking about how they were editing, tens of hours. I think it was like 40 hours of footage for Deadliest Catch per episode. And they were talking about how they would edit in tandem, and then they would show each other their edits, and they would critique for each other. And so it was almost this collaboration, this round table of editors.
Yeah.
So another approach could be, instead of in a silo, you actually have them tackling.
No, they were only in a silo until I view.
Yeah.
Then they view too.
Yeah, perfect. I love it.
So
It's genius.
they just can't.
Per each scene?
for each scene. I don't want them to compare notes until I see it and we all watch it
Yeah.
together. It'll be a little brain trust watch
Super cool.
of each scene.
It's a lot of time.
It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right film.
Worth
Right.
it for the.
I mean, it's 2 extra employees, so you're spending that money.
Right.
But I think you could argue with how important the editor's style is and editor ideas are, that you will have a better film. Now, I actually think it's going to be important to shoot a percentage more of options
Sure. Yeah. I
to
can see
make that work. Like,
Yep.
hey, we have this idea. We've budgeted the time to try that stuff out. That's kind of why I'm talking about it, is because the project that I want to do next, if it is the next one that I want to do, is going to have a lot of improv.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think these multiple versions are so important.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. I think it's great.
Next question. Would you, well, let me first ask about the casting and crewing process.
Sure.
Was it mostly just about the budget? Like who's the best I can get for X? Or was it, try to find the best and just talk them into it? Or that's about the crew. Let's start there.
Well, I mean, that's a big city mentality. In Montana, you have one option,
Okay.
and talking them into it was the task.
Good answer.
Yeah.
What about casting? Same thing?
Really similar. But I can say, we really lucked out because we spread it through our networks. We did an open casting call, of course, which we did on Silk Trees. We came up with a couple characters, actually, from that, which was fantastic.
You mean people that were in Silk Trees came over there, or what do you mean?
Also true. We did on Silk Trees.
You
we
mean the
put
open casting
Yeah,
call.
open
Okay,
casting
okay,
call.
okay.
Put it in the newspaper, and people show up for hours. They just cycle through and do readings. So it was successful. We came up with a couple characters with that. But yeah, what happened was we did a viewing of Silk Trees, and this actor, Mark Brassich, who was in Silk Trees, who's just a legend.
He's the GOAT.
He is. He saw that we did a viewing in Montana, and he said, if I'd have only known, I would have come up there for this. And
Wow.
I thought, oh my God, I would have totally, if I only knew that you wanted to. And that planted an idea in I thought, well, maybe he'll come up to make another movie. If he's,
He's good enough. I'd love
yeah.
to work with him again.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Retired Air Force colonel, and so just the coolest guy ever. But yeah, he ended up.
Helicopter pilot.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The cool story, and I don't know if you know this, Jed, but you got to hear this. He showed up on set wearing a Carhartt jacket that looked more than authentic. And if you watch the movie ever again, I doubt it, but if you ever watch it again, you can see the Carhartt jacket he wears is all ragged at the cuffs. Because when we cast him in Silk Trees, which was kind of a fluke that he was in there because he's from Colorado, we said to him, you got the part, you need to supply your own wardrobe because that's what we're doing, and you need, for the character, Carhartt jacket. He said, what the heck's a Carhartt jacket? He had no clue. So he went out and bought one, and he wears it in the film. He then ends up going for quite a few years. He goes and works as a hunting guide, actually owns the company, and does this hunting guide as I think it's his third career in his life or something crazy like this. And he wears that jacket every day. And it really got, tattered and worn. And so when he showed up on set on Useless, he said, guess what jacket this is? And I couldn't believe it. It's the same jacket that was in Silk Trees.
That's amazing.
Is that cool?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Wait, can you tell the story of how you found your lead?
Yeah. That was kind of crazy. That was, it's kind of miraculous, actually. When I was working on the screenplay, obviously the lead is a girl who does barrel racing. And I felt in my heart like God spoke to me and said, there's a girl in this valley who not only is a barrel racer, because there's plenty of girls who are barrel racers, but one that can act as well. And I kind of rejected the idea as soon as it popped into my head. I thought, that's ridiculous. And I couldn't quite shake it. It just kind of kept running around in my brain. And so then I told my sister, Charity, who's producing, I said, I think there's a girl. I think God told me this. I think there's a girl in the valley who could do both things. She said, that's crazy. Well, I end up crossing paths with this girl, Brooke, because I wanted to research what it would be like to be a 17-year-old, or in her case, 19-year-old, who, was a barrel racer, who was passionate about this sport. And so we sat down and talked, and the more we talked, I thought, man, this girl's got so much confidence. It was really incredible, which, I think 90% of acting is just confidence and projecting. And so at one point I said to her, hey, do you act? And she's, I don't know, really, well, why don't you come in and audition? I don't think so, And so later, as we're really into the casting phase, I said to Charity, I think it's Brooke. I think Brooke is the person that I had on my radar. I didn't even know about it. And Charity's like, I don't know, that sounds ridiculous. Why don't we just, we'll just have her come in and read, and then we'll know. And so we said, hey, why don't you just come in and read for the small part? Because, that's easy. And she said, okay. And then later, Charity followed up and said, hey, since you're already coming in, why don't you read for the lead?
People. I think we're seeing a pattern.
Hey,
quite the pattern.
A little bit of psychology goes a long ways. So she came in and read for it, and genuinely, she killed it. She killed it. She read for one of the tougher scenes, which required some tears. She had real tears on her face that day, and I think I got shivers. I just was like, this is it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And she's a good writer.
She's incredible.
I was impressed with that.
That's the thing that kind of takes the film to another level, right? Is that authenticity of, these are people who are actually doing the thing. You didn't have to cast stunt doubles.
Right.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
I have to say, yes, the story is simple, and the you were describing earlier like a short film stretched out, and it does have that vibe. However, I think a big redeeming thing is that you really do love watching these people ride.
Yeah.
It's such a strength.
It is a strength. It's like, it's eye candy every single time you watch them ride, and you're like, I'm not even a rider, and I'm like, look at them.
Yeah.
They're just like hovering in the seat.
Yep.
Seems like they could be like carrying a glass of water or something.
Yeah. Tremendous balance. I can tell you another quick story. She showed up with her own horse. She has a few horses to choose from. And so we cast her horse. I asked her specifically which one she wanted. And she picked the Blue Roan, which is one of the most beautiful horses out there. If you ever read Louis L'Amour, every character has a Blue Roan. It's just notoriously beautiful. And so we ended up with this beautiful horse. And happy accident, I don't know if our viewers are familiar with the happy accident term, but we had one happen where, in the story, this horse they call it blown up. He's been overworked to the point where it's kind of like a animal's nervous breakdown, if you will. And we had to kind of get this result of the first few rides that he's, unrideable almost. How are we going to do that? I didn't even think we could accomplish. Let's just get some riding in there. Well, happy accident was that horse ended up sitting for the first 2 days of filming in a stall, and that's a high energy working horse, and he was pissed at her. They have this bond. They said they have a relationship, and so he started bucking right when we went to film. And so
is that the spinning?
Yes,
because I had a note here that was my next note to ask you about that, where I'm like, was that an accident and you were able to get it? And she's like handling this horse, like acting up, but it was part of the story. So I was like, oh shoot, did they do something that got the horse to do that?
No. And
that's lucky.
It was lucky. It was a very happy accident.
Easy. Easy. Easy.
And and it worked out really well. In fact, if you hear the gnat sound on that take, you can hear me like talking over top of the take, being like, easy, easy. We're all nervous for her, like, careful, Brooke, you okay? She kind of gets him under control and then continues the scene. Well, it was perfect. We couldn't have asked for a better take.
The old saying is like double or triple your time, whatever, if you're working with animals and kids.
Right.
Did you experience that?
Never.
So it was easy to work with animals. Is that because it was Montana and everybody was used to animals?
Yeah, we actually had a horse wrangler on set for a good bit of it to make sure that we had somebody who that was their job, especially to keep sure, make sure that everything was safe. Because Brooke acting, we don't want her to have that responsibility. It wasn't hard for her at all. I mean, it's like it comes so naturally. She's done it since she was a little child, and everybody on set, they were champs because they were so skilled in this. It's normal for them. So yeah, we really lucked out there.
Nice. I noticed that you had a state university plug in there.
Yeah.
They were a sponsor?
They were. So Sydney's husband, Eric, who's also a champ, he took on, as associate producer, bringing on all of our sponsors. And so we had Carhartt, we had Outback, which is a clothing company, not the steakhouse. And I'm trying to think of, Rand's hats, which is a legendary. The two hats that were written in, we got those donated from Rand's hats. And those are incredible hats.
And they're expensive?
Very. About $1,000 a piece. Which, I mean, maybe $1,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money, but
sounds like a lot for a hat.
A lot for a hat. Custom made with the name, put inside the sweatband. Really incredible. So, yeah, and then MSU came on board, and it wasn't really a scratch your back, we'll scratch yours kind of a thing. We just came up with this idea because they were so generous with us.
Generous how?
They donated some money towards the film.
What percentage?
I don't have a percentage. The pitch that we gave them, I actually don't even know if this is public information, but I don't think it matters. That we pitched them on basically buying some equipment that we would use on the film.
So then they would have it for them? Like they would own it?
No.
Oh.
Nope.
Hey, buy this gear for us.
Yes.
And we'll
use it. We'll increase this. Yeah, and we'll plug you. And they were super generous with that. They said, yeah, we believe in this.
Is it easier to do that with gear than money?
I honestly don't know. I think they would have done it no matter what. But
Gotcha.
I think in this instance, it was something that I portioned that gear as payment for my associate producer to make sure that he was actually going to get paid for what he did. So it was a little bit circular kind of a move, but it ended up being, as with all the legwork that he did, it worked out advantageously for everybody.
When you think about doing things differently the next time, you touched a little bit about the writing. What are some other areas what are some other things that you'd change or will change the next time around?
Ooh. I think the biggest thing that I learned or would like to change next time around is to not wear too many hats. I think that's what burned me out pretty bad. And also, you lose your taste. You lose, as the director, that's your number one thing. Can't taste it. So yeah, I think wearing too many hats, hiring more people to do more. I don't think I'll sit down and edit, if at all I can help it, ever again. I love editing short form projects, but I don't want to do a feature as the sole person it's riding on again.
Would you say you're introverted as well?
Yes.
So that's a lot of output from you to have to direct people for 30 days. Was it like 30 days?
23 with 2 pickups, so 24, 26, what's that, 5?
But just that...
Can I do math?
That pressure on you of... And I also don't remember how the crew is also around 20.
Around 20, yeah.
Yeah. So 20 people all looking to you every day for 20-something days.
Yes, that was a drain. Yeah, that definitely contributed to burnout.
And then, additionally, all of the creative thinking and
Yep.
having to problem solve every single thing.
Yep. But honestly, I look back on those days, and they're so happy to me.
Yeah.
I actually got revved up during that time. Like, it felt energetic.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. As compared
So it felt,
to just
it didn't
exhausted
feel
all the
as
time.
draining.
No, I honestly think it was the long slug of I spent 50 days in Puerto Rico shooting a documentary down there, and then went straight from that into pre-pro, and I think it was those two combined, and then rolling into the 23 days. That's
wow.
what did it. And then going straight out of that into more corporate commercials.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about a couple scenes, or
Yeah.
maybe comment on a couple scenes.
Yeah.
There's one scene, these aren't spoilers, but
No problem. It's not much of a spoiler type movie.
3/4 of the way through the film, there's a moment where a main central character has a problem, and he's driving a truck and he goes off the road.
Yep.
And I noticed that there's a character that comes and calls like for an ambulance. Who was that?
That was me. As my cameo.
What?
Oh,
What?
nice job.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
was a nice little cameo.
It was not planned.
There was one part
I
of
wanted
that
to ask
shot
you about that.
that character kind of looks over his shoulder. That was like the blue steel, Zoolander.
Yes, I know that.
I noted it.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, that was fun to see you on screen. But then
Thank you.
also, I wanted to say, when that scene happened and this moment happened with one of your main characters,
Yeah.
you also had this, other moment where like in the stables where the birds fly up.
Yeah.
And it was timed. And I thought that was nicely shot, nicely timed.
Thank
So
you.
Kudos on that.
Thank you much.
Couple tech questions for our techie listeners.
Yep.
What was it shot on?
That was shot on the Red Epic with the helium sensor. So we shot it
So
mostly
8K.
8K, yeah. And I had a lot of friends who were like, "You don't need 8K, you're an idiot." And I was like, "I don't care. I want the full sensor. I don't want to crop this in. I want Super 35."
Was that did that end up being a data hog?
It actually amazingly was not that bad.
Not too bad.
We compressed it, I believe it was 8:1.
Okay.
Which was no problem at all. I saw no compression artifacts ever. And I did end up zooming and panning on a few scenes, few shots. Had some crew members show up in some shots I had to get rid of. So just, pan and scan,
Yep.
get them out of there. Worked out well.
And audio? How'd you handle audio?
Yeah, we shot that all on a Zoom F4. Majority was boom overhead with an NTG3. And then we had some DPA wireless lavs that we also ran. And those 4060s, typical film is 4061s. We had the 4060s. They're great. I love them. They sound really good, but they'll never compete with a good boom. Even that NTG3 is not my favorite. I'd rather have a DPA or Sheps. Ooh. But yeah, it's fantastic. And it really, in the end, I can be like a kind of a gear snob. I think we inherited that from Dad.
Probably.
He loves the best. But in the end, I realized, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter. Just make your movie.
Yeah, and make it good.
Yep.
Wow.
I want to say congratulations on
Thank you, bro.
making the film,
Thank you.
and I'm proud of you. It's a lot to learn when you take it all the way through, and you're in the club, bro.
Thanks, man.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Where are you going from here?
Yeah, so I want to transition to full-time film, not just doing the corporate thing. I'm taking gigs as often as possible because I still need the money. I'm not making anything off this movie yet, but I think I'm pretty close. And my goal this summer actually is to shoot a teaser or a sizzle reel, you'd call it, for unscripted drama. called Montana Legends. And I kind of pitch it as Chef's Table style, where you dig into a character, you tell their story with some really cinematic visuals over top. Great interviews. I love running interviews with people. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so my goal is to go travel around Montana this summer and interview some really cool people and put together a sizzle reel to pitch some networks.
Nice. What's your target duration on the episode?
40 to 45, kind of that classic broadcast length.
And what about writing in terms of next feature or anything like that? You working on anything? Or?
Yeah. I sat down. I was really blessed, actually, to sit down with a relatively famous producer, and he gave me his own advice, which is, making movies is great, but you really got to just write your way in. Focus on your writing. And so I took that to heart, and I've been working on a project that I'm really excited about, and where for Useless, I feel like I didn't just tackle that story structure. This is the complete opposite. I'm going after story, plotting, characters, all of it with everything inside of me. To the extent that if I just sell it as a screenplay, I'd be okay with that as its own artistic thing.
That's interesting to me because I don't know that I've ever felt that feeling where I'm like, I'm going to write this as good as I possibly can write it and possibly even sell the script. For me, I'm always like
too personal, right? Like
I can't imagine not making it.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. That's kind of just like a difference between us, and that's great.
And really, in the same way that making Useless was really focused on the business side of things, I feel similarly with the script that if I can get it into any awards, get any sort of notoriety, and then any representation off of it, obviously my goal would be to direct it. I would love to direct it. But I'm open to it because I know it could be a means to an end. It might be a little bit disappointing, a little heartbreaking.
Jamin, you got anything else?
Yeah. One question.
Hit me.
If it was shot in 8K, why is it so blurry?
That would be his fault.
Just kidding.
Jamin, what did you do on the film?
Just first AC, pulling focus, and missing all my shots. But no, it was really, really fun, and I learned so much. And I mean, not to get sappy, but I definitely learned everything about filmmaking from both of you.
That's amazing.
Everything.
That's amazing.
And so I it's just really privileged to be here and to starting from, you're talking about Flisbins. I was a intern on Flisbins.
That's right.
There was a time where in my homeschooling, you were giving me technical film class.
That's right.
It was like once a week or something.
Yeah. One-on-one.
Teaching me how a camera works.
Yeah.
And all that. So, and then from there, eventually interned at Votary. So it's just, I'm really thankful.
It's really cool.
Both of you guys, and be able to see, the journeys, because neither of you are done either. So it's a lot of fun to be a part of the whole thing.
Just getting going.
Yeah.
I have to say, having Jamin on set was awesome. It was really family is really tight. So I had Charity and I had Jamin, and I felt like that gave me a certain level of backbone. There's a few times I had some kind of run-ins with crew.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, some not fun stuff. And I always just felt like anytime I'd say, Jamin, did I do that? Is this? No, just no. Oh, okay, we're good. That's all good. I just make sure I'm on.
Well, you're like, you have to encourage any goal that you see, right?
Yes.
So I learned that from you, and then I applied it to you.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Full circle.
Yeah.
You could stay hired because you're
doing great.
You're
Josiah.
doing awesome.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. You actually did an amazing job.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Well, this has been super fun, and I encourage people to watch the movie Useless, and can't wait to see what you do next. Maybe we'll collaborate.
Would be
on
awesome.
Something.
Shut up.
Stop it.
Yeah.
We talked about it yesterday. This
Great
new
combos.
film. This new film that he's writing is gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be pretty cool.
He's looking for funding.
Yeah,
from Votary.
20 million.
What do you say?
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Call me out on the air.
Yeah.
We'll just raise the money.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for tuning in,
Yeah,
and
thanks,
watch that movie. And if you have any questions or how can people reach you, Josiah?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram probably more than anything else, at Josiah Burdick. Easiest way, or my website, fearlesspictures.com. You just send me an email or check out my stuff on there.
Love it. And
Amazing.
hit us with some comments if you want to hear more about filmmaking, or if you'd like to hear more specific stories from the trenches, these different projects that we're talking about. Comment down below, ask your questions, and we will try to hit you back. With that, that's episode 20. Peace, y'all.
Adios.